Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some current events and some really insightful articles. We've got a variety of different things for you today, from productivity tips to some financial advice, and even a look at the USMLE's Step 1 exam format.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is such a fascinating snapshot of what people are thinking about these days, from kind of those practical tips to even those specific career paths. We've got a lot to cover.
Definitely. Let's jump right in with something that I know stood out to me. It's actually from Cal Newport's blog. It's about a Nobel Prize winner, Eric Betzig, and the article is titled, Doing What It Takes versus Taking What You Already Know How to Do. It really delves into his unique journey.
Yeah, Betzig, he's really a powerful example of what happens when you're willing to step outside of that comfort zone. I mean, this guy, he was already a successful physicist, but felt he'd hit a ceiling. So instead of just kind of honing what he already knew, he took a leap. He dove headfirst into the world of microscopy, which was a brand new field for him.
And it's so easy to get caught up in what we're already good at, just relying on those skills that we've already honed. Have you ever felt that way? Like you've been stuck because you were hesitant to kind of push yourself outside those boundaries?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a feeling we all experience at one point or another. And that's really what Betzig's story kind of challenges us to think about. Are we truly pushing ourselves to grow or just kind of playing it safe? He realized that those big breakthroughs, they often require us to embrace new challenges and acquire totally different skills. It's recognizing when you've reached the limits of what you know and then being brave enough to dive into the unknown.
Absolutely. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about building habits that stick. We have Kara Harvey from A Purpose-Driven Mom, and she offers some great advice on this concept of habit stacking.
Yeah, I love this idea of habit stacking. It's a really fantastic strategy if you're looking to achieve these large goals. So instead of trying to change everything at once, it's like you're breaking down your goals into those smaller, bite-sized habits, and then you weave them into your existing routine.
Right? And she talks about how crucial it is to create systems and track your progress to stay motivated. Like you're creating a roadmap for success, one step at a time. Have you ever thought about incorporating a quick meditation after your morning coffee or a quick walk during your lunch break? It's about figuring out what small habit can I stack onto something I already do.
Exactly. The beauty of this whole habit stacking thing is it makes positive change feel almost effortless and sustainable. By weaving these new habits into the fabric of your day, you're way more likely to stick with them, in the long run.
For sure. Now, switching gears again, let's dive into a question that was posed in an article on the Dreamcatcher blog. It asks, is true originality possible in today's world where we have endless inspiration? It seems like we're just bombarded with ideas everywhere we turn, which makes it harder to find our own unique voice.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, right? I mean, we are exposed to so much information, so much creative output. It can feel kind of overwhelming to even try to find your own space. But I think the key here is to view that inspiration not as a barrier, but as a springboard, a launching pad.
The article talks about embracing that inspiration as a catalyst to find our own unique perspective. It's about absorbing all those outside influences, but filtering them through our own lens, our own experiences, and then our own creative vision.
Exactly. It's like, imagine a sculptor looking at all these different types of stone. They don't just try to copy exactly what they see. They use those different shapes and colors and textures to inspire their own unique creation. It's about finding your voice within this massive sea of inspiration.
I love that analogy. So I want to throw that question out to you. How do you navigate this world of endless inspiration while also cultivating your own unique voice? It's something definitely worth thinking about. Now, let's shift gears again and step into this world of transformative experiences. The Tim Ferriss Show had a really interesting interview with a philosopher, L.A. Paul. She really dives into how these experiences shape our lives.
What's really interesting about Paul's work is that she tackles those kind of big, life-altering decisions that we often grapple with. And she uses this really unique metaphor of becoming a vampire to kind of illustrate it.
Becoming a vampire, that's the unique way to put it.
It is, right. Of course, she's not talking about literal vampires. It's more about exploring those choices that fundamentally change who we are at our core. Those choices where you can't fully grasp what the experience will be like until you've actually taken that leap. Think about deciding whether or not to have children. It's a choice that irrevocably alters the course of your life, and you just can't truly understand it until you're there.
It's such a profound concept. We often make decisions based on our current understanding of the world, but some choices completely reshape our perspectives and our values. It sounds like a must-listen interview, a really fascinating look into the very nature of choice and how it shapes our identity.
It really is. For anyone wrestling with those big life decisions, this interview provides a really valuable framework for thinking about the choices that redefine who we are.
Now, for anyone in the medical field or hoping to be, we have a great article from personaldevelopment.com, and it focuses on the USMLE Step 1 exam.
Yeah, this is huge. I mean, the USMLE Step 1 exam is like a rite of passage, for anyone wanting to practice medicine in the United States. And this article really gives a good overview of the format, the scoring, covering everything from the way the test is structured to what a solid score actually looks like.
Preparing for something like this can be so daunting, but this article breaks it down and makes it feel manageable.
It does. It takes all that complex information and puts it into digestible chunks.
Okay, shifting gears again, let's talk about leadership. The Positive blog has a great piece on John C. Maxwell, who's a well-known leadership expert.
You know what I love about Maxwell's work is that he stresses how leadership goes way beyond those formal roles you see in businesses or organizations. It's really about influence, about inspiring others to take action, and that can apply to any area of your life. It could be leading a team at work, a project in your community, even within your own family.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that those leadership qualities, they're valuable no matter what your title is or your position.
Exactly. Think about a leader that you really admire. What makes them so effective? It's often their vision, their integrity, and their ability to empower those around them. And the truth is, we all have the potential to be leaders in our own way.
It's a great takeaway. We all have that capacity to lead and make a difference. Now get ready for the rapid fire round. We have a bunch of quick but really intriguing insights and news items to share.
Okay, first up, we have a poet's perspective on creativity. This is from the Marginarian. It asks, is creativity purely craftsmanship, or is it something deeper, driven by some mysterious force?
Love that. It explores the creative process from this whole other angle.
Definitely. And next, we have something about turning stress into a superpower. This is from Unfinished Success. The question is, can we actually harness nervous energy and make it work for us?
Right. That's a very interesting idea. And we have some really relevant tips for anyone who's spending hours at a desk. The Positive blog gives us some simple strategies for staying fit at work.
Absolutely crucial for so many of us these days.
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck in that routine, but moving throughout the day, even a little bit, can make a huge difference. And then we have some fascinating stuff from Mind Body Green. They've got articles on boosting your dopamine levels, how alcohol actually impacts your sleep, and even the potential effects of those plant-based meat alternatives on mental health.
Wow, it's a really diverse mix, but they all tie into our well-being in some way.
And lastly, we have a thought-provoking piece from Alangio's blog. He argues that the average low-income family today might actually have a better quality of life than John D. Rockefeller did a century ago.
Really makes you think, doesn't it? Imagine having all of Rockefeller's wealth, but living without all the technology and conveniences we take for granted today.
It really challenges our assumptions about wealth and what it means to be truly rich in the modern world. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have, from personal growth and career advice to these big philosophical questions, we've touched on so much.
It's amazing how these seemingly diverse topics all connect back to the human experience. Our aspirations, challenges, that constant search for knowledge, for well-being, it's all in there.
It really is, and that's why we love these deep dives. It's all about finding those nuggets of wisdom that resonate with our own lives. And then we get to apply those to our own journey.
Absolutely. Stick with us. We'll be back with even more thought-provoking articles and fascinating insights in part 2.
Welcome back to our deep dive into these really thought-provoking articles.
Yeah, picking up where we left off, let's talk more about that Elaine Guillot blog post on relative poverty.
Right. He argues that the average low-income family today might actually be living a better life than John D. Rockefeller did, back in the day.
It's a wild thought, right? Imagine if you had all of Rockefeller's money, but you didn't have things like, our smartphones or the internet or modern medicine.
I know. It really changes how you think about wealth, right? What does it even mean to be rich today?
It's a good point. And speaking of Alain Guillot, he's got another piece that's really interesting called The Best Investments That Aren't Stocks and Shares.
Oh, yeah. In this one, he's really pushing the idea of investing in experiences. He's saying that memories and personal growth, they give you this much more lasting satisfaction compared to just buying stuff.
Yeah, it fits with that idea of building a life that's full of meaning, right? Not just collecting things.
Exactly. And he also talks about investing in your health, your education, your relationships, all these intangible things that make life richer. It's a really refreshing take on wealth, focusing on well-being and growth.
Totally. Okay, now let's look at something a little different. The challenges of planning for utility companies.
Right. Guillot also wrote a piece called Better Planning for Utility Companies, What Works Best. It's a deep dive into what it takes to run these companies and how strategic planning is key to keeping things running smoothly and making customers happy.
Yeah, it's so important because when those utilities go down, it affects everyone's lives in a big way.
For sure. And this article talks about being proactive, anticipating problems, figuring out how to use resources effectively, and coming up with solutions that put the customers first. It's a balancing act, right? You need efficiency and reliability, but you also got to meet the needs of the community.
Definitely a lot to juggle. Okay, let's move on to stress management because this article on unfinished success really caught my eye. It's called 8 Unusual Strategies for Turning Stress into Your Superpower.
Oh, yeah. Instead of just seeing stress as this bad thing, this article says that we can actually learn to see it as a source of energy, something that can actually motivate us.
So we're talking about taking that nervous energy and using it to our advantage, right?
Exactly. And they offer these tips like embracing discomfort, seeing challenges as opportunities, even using stress to get those creative juices flowing.
I love that. It's like shifting your perspective and finding ways to make stress work for you instead of letting it control you.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that even things that feel negative can be used to help us grow and become more resilient.
So true. Okay, while we're on the topic of incorporating positive practices, let's talk about staying fit even when you're at work.
Yeah, the Positive blog has some good tips on that. They're all about how to sneak in some movement throughout your workday.
I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to that. It's tough when you're sitting at a desk for hours on end.
Oh, yeah, but they emphasize that you don't need to hit the gym to stay active.
It's all about finding those small opportunities to move around, right?
Exactly. They talk about taking little walks during breaks, using the stairs instead of the elevator, even just doing some stretches at your desk.
Simple but effective, right? Every little bit counts.
For sure. And it's about making movement a natural part of your day, not this separate thing you got to schedule in.
Yeah, let's switch gears and talk about some of the cool stuff on Mind Body Green. They've got this whole collection of articles on health and wellness, touching on all kinds of topics.
Yeah, there's so much there. One that stands out to me is about plant-based meat alternatives and mental health.
Really? That's an interesting connection. I haven't really heard much about that.
Me neither, but this article discusses a study that suggests there might be a link between eating these plant-based meat alternatives and a higher risk of depression.
Oh, wow. I would have thought that going plant-based was considered healthier, right?
Yeah, you'd think so, but the article says we need more research to figure out what's really going on.
Makes you realize that even when you're trying to make healthy choices, there could be things you don't expect.
It's true, you got to be informed and look at the whole picture.
Okay, another Mind Body Green article I saw talks about how alcohol affects our sleep,
I have a topic that hits home for a lot of people, especially those who like a drink before bed.
right? I've always wondered about that. Like, does it really mess with your sleep?
Apparently so. The article goes into the science of it all, showing how alcohol can disrupt your sleep even if you just have a little bit.
So even one drink could potentially affect how well you sleep.
That's what they're saying. So yeah, being mindful of how much you drink, especially close to bedtime, is something to think about.
Good reminder. It's easy to think that certain habits are harmless, but then they can have these sneaky consequences for our health.
It's all about making informed choices, and prioritizing the things that support our well-being.
Absolutely. Now, Mind Body Green also has this article about a 12-minute treatment that apparently helps hair growth, especially along the hairline and scalp. They say it works in just 6 weeks.
That's interesting. A lot of people are looking for solutions to hair loss, right?
Yeah, and this article is about a hair growth hat that uses a bunch of different technologies to stimulate hair follicles.
Wow, it's amazing how technology is being used to help with these kinds of things.
It really is. It gives you hope. Like, even for issues that have been around forever, there are always new possibilities emerging.
Speaking of hope, there's another Mind Body Green article about cancer preventing habits.
Prevention is so important. What kind of habits are they talking about?
Well, they talk about simple things that can make a big difference, like staying at a healthy weight, eating a balanced diet, and being physically active.
It's about making choices every day that add up to a healthier life in the long run.
Exactly. And it shows that we have more control over our health than we might realize.
Okay, now for a little fun. Let's talk horoscopes.
Oh, yeah, Mind Body Green's got their weekly horoscope. Looks like there's some drama brewing in the love department.
Oh, really? What's going down?
Well, according to the article, there are some astrological influences at play that could stir things up in romantic relationships.
So, whether you believe in astrology or not, it's always kind of fun to see what the stars have in store, right?
It's true. Life's full of surprises, and sometimes it feels like things are connected in ways we don't fully understand.
I like that. And speaking of connections, Mind Body Green also has a piece about 2 zodiac signs that they say make an odd but powerful couple,
Okay, now I'm curious. Which signs are we talking about?
Aquarius and Capricorn.
Interesting. They seem like a pretty unlikely match, at first glance.
Yeah, but the article says that this combination can actually work really well. It explores how their different personalities can both complement and challenge each other.
It reminds us that sometimes opposites attract, right? And that diversity in relationships can be a really good thing.
Totally. Okay, now let's move on to something a little more down to earth. The connection between functional nutrition and American cuisine.
Oh yeah, Mind Body Green's got this article about a chef who's using functional nutrition to totally change the way we think about American food.
Now, what exactly is functional nutrition?
Well, it's like an approach to food where you think of it as medicine. It's all about getting to the root of health issues, not just treating the symptoms.
And this chef is using those ideas in their cooking.
Exactly. They're creating dishes that are both super delicious and designed to support your health.
That's really cool. It's like combining culinary creativity with a deep understanding of how food affects our bodies.
Yeah, and it's kind of bridging that gap between the restaurant world and the whole health and wellness movement.
Now let's talk about a specific health issue, IBS, which affects a lot of people.
Right. Mind Body Green has an article with insights from a gut health researcher on how to manage those IBS symptoms.
IBS can be really tough to deal with, so any advice is helpful.
For sure. They talk about figuring out what foods trigger your symptoms, managing your stress levels, and eating things that are good for your gut. It's all about recognizing that link between gut health, what you eat, and how you feel overall.
They also talk about why IBS seems to be more common in women.
Right. They look at the hormonal and physiological factors that might play a role.
It's a reminder that health issues can affect people differently, and sometimes you need to find what works best for you. And speaking of things that are more common in women, My Body Green has an article about nutrient deficiencies that women under 50 should be aware of.
That's important. A lot of times you might think you're eating healthy, but you could still be missing out on some key nutrients.
Right. This article highlights 4 nutrients that women in this age group often don't get enough of: iron, vitamin D, calcium, and magnesium.
And those deficiencies can really affect you in a lot of ways, from fatigue and weak bones to mood swings and hormonal problems.
So it's good to know what to look out for. And they also offer some advice on how to address those deficiencies through diet and supplements.
It's a reminder that taking care of our nutritional needs is essential, no matter what age you are.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. My Body Green has a piece about a tool that experts are recommending for younger-looking skin.
They're talking about those red light masks.
Red light therapy, right. I've heard a little bit about that. What's the deal with that?
Well, they say that it helps stimulate collagen production, which can reduce wrinkles and improve your skin tone.
That sounds promising. Are there at-home versions of these masks?
Yeah, definitely. The article actually reviews one that you can use at home.
That's cool. It's great that there are more accessible options for people who want to try these kinds of treatments.
It shows that skincare is something you can really invest in, right? It's about feeling good in your own skin.
Absolutely. Okay, back to the topic of movement, there's another Mind Body Green article about how to get more of it into your day.
Yeah, this connects to that earlier piece about staying fit at work.
Exactly. It's about making a conscious effort to be more active, even if you don't have a formal exercise routine.
They have this simple hack: just move your body whenever you have the chance.
So like take the stairs instead of the elevator, or get up and walk around instead of sitting for hours.
Yep, simple as that.
Love it. It's all about making that mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
And over time, those little moments add up.
Exactly. And last but not least, Mind Body Green tackles the age-old question: are naps good or bad for your brain?
That's a good one. I enjoy a good nap, but I've always wondered if it's really beneficial or just a sign that I'm lazy.
Well, the article says that a recent study found that taking naps during the day can actually increase your brain volume.
So napping could potentially make you smarter.
That's what the research suggests. They also talk about how naps can improve your memory, make you more alert, and even boost your creativity.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better about my afternoon siestas.
It's a good reminder that resting and giving your brain a break is crucial. It helps you function at your best.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have, from relative poverty and investing in experiences to stress management and skincare and even napping. It's been a whirlwind.
But it's amazing how all these different articles connect to this bigger picture, right? The desire to learn, to grow, to live a better life. It's all in there.
And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. There's always something new to discover, always something that sparks your curiosity.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive.
We've covered so much ground already, everything from those practical tips to those really deep philosophical discussions.
We do have a few more insights to share before we wrap up. Let's circle back to leadership for a moment.
Yeah, the Positive blog has that great piece on John C. Maxwell, that well-known leadership expert.
Right, and Maxwell emphasizes that leadership isn't limited to just formal positions or titles.
Exactly. It's about having influence, inspiring others, no matter where you are in life. He talks about developing those key skills like communication, vision, and integrity.
And those skills are valuable for everyone, not just people with leader in their job title.
Exactly. It's about empowering yourself and those around you to reach a common goal.
Okay, let's touch on something that's super relevant for anyone facing a big exam, like the USMLE Step 1.
Right. We talked about it earlier, but personaldevelopment.com has that really in-depth article on the format and scoring of the exam.
This is huge for medical students in the U.S., right?
Absolutely. It breaks down the whole structure of the exam, the types of questions you can expect, and what a good score actually looks like. It's a must-read for anyone preparing for this beast.
For sure, going into something like that, you need to understand how it all works. Now let's shift gears to creativity.
The Marginellian has an article that looks at creativity from a poet's perspective.
I love that. It questions whether creativity is purely a skill, like craftsmanship, or if there's something more to it, like a mysterious force at play.
Right. It explores that connection between skill, inspiration, and that whole idea of the muse, giving us a whole new way to think about the creative process.
It reminds us that creativity is this complex thing we can't really pin down, you know? Okay, let's talk about stress again for a minute.
Unfinished Success has that article with those unusual strategies for turning stress into a superpower.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier, but it's such a fascinating concept. I want to hear more.
Well, they suggest that instead of seeing stress as purely negative, we can actually learn to reframe it, see it as a source of energy and motivation.
Right, it's about harnessing that nervous energy and putting it to good use.
Exactly. And they give you practical tips for doing that, like reframing those challenges, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, even using that stress to get your creative juices flowing.
It's all about turning those negative experiences into opportunities for growth, right?
Absolutely. Okay, let's focus on staying fit, especially at work.
The Positive blog, they had that article with those simple tips for adding movement to your workday.
It's so important, especially for those of us who are desk-bound for most of the day.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that sedentary trap.
But the article emphasizes that you don't need a gym or a dedicated workout time to get moving.
Right, it's about finding those little opportunities throughout the day.
Exactly. Take the stairs, go for a walk during your break, do some stretches at your desk. It all adds up.
Okay, let's dive back into that treasure trove of health and wellness on Mind Body Green.
Yeah, one article I saw was about boosting dopamine levels.
Dopamine, that's the feel-good neurotransmitter, right? Plays a big role in motivation and pleasure.
Exactly. And the article talks about natural ways to boost those levels, like exercise, meditation, getting enough sleep. It's all about how our lifestyle choices affect our brain chemistry.
There's another one on Mind Body Green about how alcohol affects your sleep.
Yeah, even a little bit of alcohol can mess with your sleep.
The article explains how it disrupts different stages of sleep, making it harder to get a good night's rest.
So yeah, it's something to be mindful of, especially if you like to have a drink before bed.
Another one that caught my eye was about a hair growth treatment that supposedly works in just 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, it's about this hair growth hat that uses a combination of technologies to stimulate the hair follicles.
Pretty amazing what they can do with technology these days, right?
It is, and it gives hope to people struggling with hair loss, showing that there are new solutions out there.
Okay, and then there's a Mind Body Green article about cancer-preventing habits.
Prevention is so key.
What kind of habits are they talking about?
Well, they talk about maintaining a healthy weight, eating a balanced diet, staying physically active. Simple things, but they can make a huge difference in the long run.
It's about taking control of your health and making those choices that contribute to a longer, healthier life. Okay, time for some fun. What's the word on horoscopes this week?
Mind Body Green says to brace yourself for some drama in the love department.
Oh no, what's going on?
The article says there are some astrological influences that could create some challenges and opportunities in our relationships.
Even if you don't follow astrology, it's always fun to see what the stars have in store. And speaking of relationships, there's another article about a surprising zodiac pairing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Which signs?
Aquarius and Capricorn,
Wow, that's an interesting combo. They seem pretty different.
right? But the article says that this pairing can actually be really powerful. It explores how their different personalities can both complement and challenge each other, creating this unique dynamic.
It reminds us that opposites attract and that diversity in relationships can be a really good thing.
Okay, now let's talk about something a little different. A chef who's using functional nutrition to revolutionize American cuisine.
Oh yeah, Mind Body Green has a piece about that. This chef is using food as medicine, creating dishes that are both delicious and good for you.
I love that idea. It's about getting to the root of health issues through the food we eat.
It's a really cool way to bridge that gap between the culinary world and the world of health and wellness.
Let's touch on IBS, that digestive issue that affects so many people.
Right. There's a Mind Body Green article that offers some insights from a gut health researcher on how to manage those IBS symptoms.
It's a condition that can really impact your quality of life.
Yeah, and they talk about identifying trigger foods, managing stress, making sure you're eating things that support your gut health. It's all connected, right?
Absolutely. And then there's another article that's specifically for women under 50, talking about common nutrient deficiencies.
Yeah, it highlights iron, vitamin D, calcium, and magnesium as nutrients that women in this age group often don't get enough of.
Important reminder that even if you think you're eating healthy, you might be missing out on some key nutrients.
For sure. And then Mind Body Green has a piece about red light therapy, specifically red light masks for younger looking skin.
I've heard a little about that. What's the deal with red light therapy?
Well, it's supposed to stimulate collagen production, which can help reduce wrinkles and improve your skin tone.
Interesting. It seems like a gentler approach to skincare.
It is, and there are at-home devices you can use, so it's becoming more accessible.
That's great. And we're back to the topic of movement. Another article emphasizing the importance of incorporating more of it into our day.
Right, it ties back to that whole idea of staying fit at work. It's about making that conscious choice to move whenever you can.
Exactly. And lastly, there's a fascinating article about napping.
Oh yeah, they explore whether napping is good or bad for your brain, and the research suggests that it might actually be beneficial.
Really? Like, how so?
Well, they found that napping can increase brain volume, improve memory, boost alertness, even enhance creativity.
So maybe those afternoon naps aren't such a bad thing after all.
It seems that way. Rest and rejuvenation are crucial for our brains to function at their best. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. We've explored so much from leadership and personal growth to health and wellness and even a little bit of astrology.
It's been quite a journey, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. It's amazing how all these different topics connect to that shared human experience. Our desire to learn, to grow, to live a better life.
Absolutely. And remember, this is just the beginning. We encourage you to dive deeper into the areas that resonated with you, explore those topics that spark your curiosity. There's always more to learn, more to discover.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure of knowledge and exploration. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.